Hi everyone, welcome to another Procreate tutorial. This is the drawing that we will be completing in today's video. This drawing is actually based on some polls that we did on my Instagram, where we voted on a few different topics, and the winners were to draw a creature in a pastel color scheme with a nature theme and a textured style. So this is what I came up with for us to draw today. So the only thing that you will need to do before we get started is download the color palette. I have it linked in the description below. It's totally free to download. Just open up the file that downloads and it'll automatically pop into Procreate so that you can use the same colors as you follow along with the video today. So take a second to go and grab that and then come back and we will get started. Okay, first things first, we will go over our canvas dimensions. They are 10 inches by 10 inches at 300 dpi. The color profile that we're using is the second one on the RGB list. And for our layers today, by the end of the video, I've used about 15 layers. So make sure that you have that many available by checking here. If you do not, you can always lower your DPI here to get more. And this is our color palette full of a lot of nice little pastel colors. So we will just go ahead and jump right into it. The first thing that we'll do is set our background color layer. So go to your layer menu, click on this background color layer, and select this first color on the color palette, the light blue. And next we will be on layer 1. And we are going to draw the clouds in the sky in the background. So grab this second color on the color palette, this white. And we are going to use our monoline brush under the calligraphy tab. And we will have that set to about 50% opacity all the way up. And we will just start drawing some clouds, maybe just on the first top half of the picture. The rest of it will be the pig and the ground. So maybe starting about halfway up, we can draw our clouds. So I'll just start one right on the edge over here. So I'll draw a line straight across, hold it down, touch my finger to the screen to make it perfectly horizontal. And then from this point here, I will just make some curved lines going off the screen and then fill that in. So that's our first cloud shape. We'll do the same thing with all the others. Maybe I'll make one up here. And this time we'll see both ends of it since I didn't have it go off the screen. Maybe something like that, and then fill that in. And maybe another one going off the screen over here. And maybe the teeniest little bit showing up here just to kind of fill out the rest of our picture. So there, we've ended up with like 5-ish that are showing. So that is the main shape of our clouds, and now to make them blend in with the background a little more, we will do the Gaussian blur on it. So make sure you're still on this layer with the clouds. Click on the wand icon, click on Gaussian blur, and let's slide that to maybe 10 to 15%, somewhere in there, to just kind of make them look a lot wispier so that our pig can be the main focus of our picture today. Okay, let's add another new layer on our layer menu. Let's now grab the third color on the top row, and we will grab our selection tool, set it to rectangle with color fill turned on, And this is going to be our ground. So the ground is going to be in two pieces. So there will be a background part of our ground, and then after our pig is done, we'll draw a little foreground part of our ground with some leaves and stuff in front of his face. But we do need a background part as well for him to sit on and be in front of. So maybe about a quarter of the way up, we are going to start on the outside of the screen and draw a rectangle going all the way off the screen, all the way around like this to cover the bottom little chunk there, and then let go so that it will fill that in. On the same layer, same color, we are going to grab a different brush to kind of make a little field-like effect. So this is under the organic category, the snow gum brush. And we are going to have that set to maybe 20% opacity again all the way up. And we are just going to kind of follow this back line here to give it a little more variation. Cover up the line as best you can so that none of it's showing, so it looks very natural with no straight line really at all. Something like that. And next we will go ahead and start working on our pig. We'll do the rest of our field stuff later, but let's get the pig done and in place for now so that we can do that. So let's add a new layer on our layer menu. Grab the first color on the second row. These are all the pig colors here on the second row. Let's switch back to our monoline brush. Again at about 50%. And the first thing that we're going to do is just draw a perfect circle for his head. So let's draw a circle, hold it down, touch your finger to the screen to make it a perfect circle. So maybe about this big, fill that in. But then we don't want his head to actually be a perfect circle. We are going to use that as a base shape though. So let's grab our arrow tool and we are going to click warp. And I'm just going to use these four corners in the middle here. I'm going to use each of them and pull them each up and out a little bit. So just do that all the way around till you get a shape more like this. It's kind of almost like a rounded square. We don't want it to be too square, like we still do want it to be fairly rounded, but just not a perfect circle. Something more like this. So I will go ahead and click my arrow tool, set it to uniform, just so we can kind of move things around a little. So I'm going to move this about here. This will be where his head is. And then I'm going to make a duplicate of this shape. So go to my layer menu, slide left on this shape and click duplicate. Click the arrow tool, again make sure it's set to uniform now, and this will be his body. So I'm going to increase this size quite a bit. And then I'm going to move it over. So this is his body. So I'm going to move it until the edge is maybe about halfway through the head shape. And then the bottom is going to be up a little bit further than the head shape as well. But not a whole lot further up, just the littlest little bit about like that. And then I'm going to go to my layer menu. I am going to select both of them. So the head and the body now. Click my arrow tool and I'm just going to move them over just a little bit so that the whole shape is kind of centered on our screen here. So there's an even amount of space over here as over here. So now we have that laid out. We are going to add the legs on their own layer as well. First things first, let's drag our body layer behind our head layer. My body layer ended up being on the top. I know this by selecting this layer and clicking the arrow tool, and it kind of highlights that shape for me. So that means my body is on top of my head and I want it to be below it. So I'm going to drag that below it. I'm going to add a new layer. This will be the layer for his feet, and it will be above the body layer but below the head layer. So right there, same color, same monoline brush at 50%, and we are going to draw his legs. There will only be 3 of them that we can see. One here, one in the front, and then the littlest bit poking out on the side over here. But let's go ahead and we are just going to draw an oval shape. Hold it down. Touch your finger to the screen to make it like a perfectly horizontal oval. let it snap there. I'm going to go ahead and click edit shape here. It's a little bit too big and a little bit too fat. I want it to be a little bit skinnier. And its leg is going to be about here, attached to its body on this back right corner here, and then fill it in. Now I'm going to make a duplicate of this shape. So go to my layer menu, make a duplicate of this layer, click the arrow tool, and I'm going to move it up here. I'm going to tilt it just a little bit so that we can see it a little bit better. It's going to kind of nestle itself right under the head here in front of the body on this kind of front corner, somewhere about like that. And then make another duplicate of this shape one more time and move it to the right here. I'm going to tilt it back that way just a little bit, and it will kind of stick out right behind its head on this left side here, just so you can see the little tiny front of it. The rest of it will be behind the head shape. So that's kind of the layout for our feet. Now that those are all done, I'm going to snap those 3 ovals onto the same layer. So boom, this is what your layers should look like now. If you need to move any of them around, do so before snapping them together. Otherwise, if they're already snapped together, you can still move them individually. For example, none of them are overlapping, and I will go grab my selection tool, set it to freehand with color filter and off, and I will just select around this back oval here, and then I can move it if I need to by itself. So now your screen should look something like this. Let's drop the size to maybe 20, and I'm just going to start right on its butt here, kind of behind this body shape. And I'm just going to draw a little curly line like this. And then I'm going to zoom in and starting on this point here, and I'm just going to follow it back, leaving a little bit of a gap like this. Smooth any of it out if you need to. Thicken parts up if you need to. Go ahead and redo it multiple times if you need to, until you get a nice shape that you like. That looks good. I might widen the base of my tail a little bit more. About like that. And that is my little tail. Next, we are going to keep going with our shapes, and we are going to draw the ears. But first, I'm going to turn off this body layer here so that I can see the whole head. The ears will be above the head, so let's add a new layer on the very top. And then also, so that we can see the ears a little bit better, let's use the second color on the second row to draw them instead. So we use the first color for the head shape, so we'll use the second color this time just so that we can see it a little bit better. But the ears are just essentially going to be on each side here. And I'll plop a picture down in the bottom left of what the shape is going to look like when we're done. But I'm just going to start here at the top right side of the head, kind of a little bit, in between the center and the side of it, right here on the edge. And I am just going to draw a line going up a little bit. And I am going to make kind of the top part of the ear, like the top edge. And then from that part, it'll curve in and go down and back around, meeting almost at our other point, but not quite. This is going to meet together here now. And this is kind of where the ear essentially folds over like this. We'll make a shadow here to make it look like that. But that is essentially where we're at. I might just kind of widen this part a little bit over here. Like that. And go ahead and fill all this in. Smooth out parts if you need to. We do want all of our shapes to be nice and smooth all the way around. To get things nice and smooth, you kind of have to draw fast, and you kind of just have to go for it. And if it doesn't work out, just redo it. But it's better than slowly going, because that helps. That is what tends to give you more, wavy, crooked lines. So this is his ear shape. I like that very much. We're going to click the arrow tool though, and I do want it to be just a little bit bigger, so I have it set to uniform, and I'll just increase the size a little bit. And then also we want this little kind of lip by the fold here to line up with the back of his head. So I am going to just kind of place it there. It doesn't have to be perfect. It can overlap a teeny bit. You won't notice later, but something about like that. That is a good angle. That looks really good right there. So we will now make a duplicate of this layer. Click the arrow tool, click flip horizontal, and then we'll drag it to the other side and line it up over there as well. Maybe about right there. So now our pig has 2 ears. We will go to our layer menu and we will snap these 2 ear layers together so that they're all on one layer. So now we can turn our body back on. And now we have our ears, our head, our feet, our body, and our tail all laid out. We'll add the snout on its own layer as well to complete all of our shapes, and then we can get started on texturizing them, shading them, all of that. So let's add one more new layer on the top. Click on the 4th color on the 2nd row that we used for our tail. Same monoline brush, and we are just going to draw a nice oval shape here. Go ahead and let it go. Click edit shape if you need to make sure it's nice and horizontal. Pretty thick. We don't want it to be too skinny. And we will just kind of place it around the middle here, a little bit closer to the bottom, maybe about right there. And then we'll go ahead and fill that in. So that completes all of our shapes. And now we can get started on shading. So the first thing we can do is just set all of these layers to alpha lock, every single one of them, all of our pig layers. Just to get that out of the way, we will use alpha lock for all of them. That just means that we only draw on the shape that's already laid down. We can't draw outside of it. So I am on my tail layer here. Alpha lock is turned on, and I am just going to start there. So our tail layer, we use this darker pink color here. So to create a highlight, I'm going to use the first color on the 2nd row. And our brush that we're going to use for all of this is going to be the 2B compressed charcoal brush under the charcoals category. We are going to have it set to, we'll vary the size as we go, but for the tail, we'll probably just have it set to like 10%. Maybe even a little less, like 7%, since the tail is pretty small. And then our opacity is all the way up. And for the tail, I am going to focus this highlight color mostly on the top side here of this end. And then the top kind of left side of this bigger part here. So I did the top side here, the left side here, and then this underside here that flips over, we'll do the top of it as well, like this. And then kind of so we follow the top here, and then it kind of stops on the right side, and then we follow the top of this part here, leaving the bottom part. And then we can also use the 2nd color on the 2nd row to add even more of a highlight. So let's just really lightly focus that towards the outer side of the highlights that we already did. Like that. And then we will do some shading. So now we will grab the 5th color on the 2nd row, this darker color, and we will focus that on the underside of all of the other shapes that we did. So we'll focus it underneath here, and we are going to maybe lower our brush size even more to like 3 or 4%, and we are just going to focus it right here, kind of following this where these two overlap, so that we get a nice kind of crisp line there. And then there's also a little bit of a shadow here too. So we'll also do just the teeniest bit of shading right on this piece here, next to this where it overlaps, to kind of give the illusion that this again is above it. Something like that. for the tail. And we will just move right along. Let's go ahead and grab our body layer, which should be our next one above the tail. And we used this first color to do the main shape. So we will now use the second color to start doing our highlights. And we are going to increase the size quite a bit to maybe 30%. And I am just going to focus this all over the top part of our body. Then I will grab the fourth color on the second row, and I will focus this all around the bottom, kind of lightly blending where our colors meet each other. And then I'm also going to use this around the head, so like over here where the head is, to kind of create a little bit of a shadow there. And then I'm also going to now switch to the fifth color on the second row, the even darker color, and focus that right on the bottom, right kind of where our feet are, and then maybe even a little bit more of a shadow around the head as well, about like that. Next, I will switch to the third color on the second row, maybe drop my size down a little bit to like 20, and just kind of focus this right on the very, very tippy top of its body to add an even brighter highlight there. And then I am even going to grab the second color on the top row, the bright white, drop my size to maybe 10%, and just add inside like the teeniest little, like just kind of round highlight here on its body. And that is it for our body. And next we will move on to the feet. They're our next layer here. So again, we use this first color to make the original shapes. So first we'll go to the second color on the color palette. Let's keep our brush size at about 10% for these. And we will add some highlights just on the top right sides of these ones. This side and the bottom will kind of blend into our body when the time comes, but for now let's just do the top kind of right portions of these. And then on this side we'll do the whole top side that we can see over here. Then let's go ahead and grab the fourth color on the second row, and we'll focus this all over the parts that we didn't do, so the bottom and this top left side. And just the bottom over here, plus the littlest bit of a shadow right by the head. And then we will grab the fifth color on the second row, and this one will really help us blend into our body. So just kind of lightly move on the left side here where the oval part meets the body part until they kind of blend together like this. And you can't really tell where one ends and one begins. And then let's do the littlest bit on the very bottom of our feet as well. And then again, same thing over here, kind of blend in to the body. And then a little bit underneath. And then on this side, we don't need to do any blending into the body, so let's just do the very underside here of our leg. So something about like that. So it looks like our legs are nicely connected to our body, but then they have the nice highlight on top. Let's go ahead and move on to our head next. Again, we started with the first color, so let's grab the second color on the second row. Let's put the size up to maybe 20, and I'm just going to focus this all over the top half of the pig's head. Then let's switch to the fourth color on the second row and do the bottom half as a nice little shadow. Then we'll do the more extreme colors, so we'll do the third color on the second row. Maybe drop our size to like 15% and just do the very top of its head here, very lightly. And then the fifth color on the second row to do the very bottom of its head. very lightly. And then also with this color, let's drop the size to maybe 10%. And I am just going to make a very, very light shadow. So very, very lightly add a shadow under its ears. All the way around the little parts that that are over the head here, like this. And then just a little bit of a shadow as well on his snout with this darker color. Okay, next up is our ears. So let's find that layer on our layer menu. We use the second color here to do the ears. So let's grab the first color and same brush. We are just going to maybe up the size to like 20% real quick. And I'm just going to add this all over the ears just to give them kind of a similar base color to our original shapes. We do want them to match, we had to use a different color so that we could see them better. So now let's go back and let's grab the second color on the second row again, this lighter one. And we will kind of focus that on this kind of like bottom outside half of each one. Then let's grab this third color on the second row, maybe drop our size to like 10%, and just focus this right kind of on the little tips and sides of the ears here. And then we will grab the fourth color on the second row and we will focus this all on kind of this top edge of the ear to kind of give that a little bit of a pop. So let's do that on each side. And then also let's drop our size down to like 5% and just focus right on this little piece here where our flap starts. So the flap kind of starts like right here and we want a shadow next to it. So just on this little section here where the back side would be. So make sure your brush is small enough to hit just that part. If you need to go back with any other colors to kind of help fix it up a little bit, you totally can. And then we will grab our fifth color on the second row and add even a little bit darker to just the very edge of our ear, like the very top edge here. And then again on that same little spot that we did, maybe add just a little bit more darkness to it there. Very, very lightly with this one. And our ear should look about like this. And next we have the snout, so let's go to that layer. Again, alpha lock is turned on for all these layers already, but you can double check them. And for this one, we use the fourth color to make the original shape. Let's grab the first color on the first row, set our brush to maybe 15%, and focus that just on the top half of the nose, very lightly. Then let's grab the sixth color on the last row and we will focus that on the bottom half. So that's going to give it a little bit of a darker color, but it's also a lot brighter. So it's brighter than like this shadow color that we used. Otherwise it would kind of blend in with that. So we do want his nose to be nice and bright like that. Okay, and now we can kind of add some finishing touches to our pig before we move on to the rest of our picture. So we obviously still need its eyes, its nostrils, and some cheeks. Since we're on this bright color, the sixth one on the second row, and we have our to be compressed charcoal brush selected, that's what we're going to use for his cheeks. Let's add this right above our head layer below our ears and click on it and turn it into a clipping mask. That way if we go off the edge of his face a little bit on each side, that is totally okay. Well, let's set it to about 15%. And I'm just going to make some little cheek circles. So to the right of the snout and down a little bit. Let's just start there and kind of work in a circular motion until you get a nice little circular cheek. And then same thing on the left side, right about there. And the reason we did the clipping mask is so that if we went off the side of either one, that would be okay. And it wouldn't show on our legs or anything. So those are my little cheek circles. And next we will go ahead and add our eyes and our nostrils. So let's add a new layer on top of all of our layers. Let's grab the third color on the last row. And we are going to switch to our dry ink brush under the inking category. So find that. Let's set it to maybe 25%. So first I'm just going to make one nostril and one eye, and then we'll duplicate it and flip it so that it goes to the other side. We could also use symmetry for this, but then we'd have to turn symmetry on and move it to the middle of our pig and stuff. So I'm just going to do it this way instead. So let's first make a little nostril on our snout. So I am just going to make a small little oval kind of towards the top of my snout, a nice skinny one, long and skinny. This is way too close to the top for me, so I'm going to click the arrow tool and just move it down just a little bit before I move on to the eye. So it should be maybe a little bit above the center, but not all the way at the top like I had it before. So somewhere about right here would be good, about this size. And then I'm going to go from the top right side of the snout up and to the right a little bit. And I am just going to make a little closed eye shape like this. So about like that. Again, this is a little too close to the center now, so I'm going to grab my selection tool, set it to freehand with color fill turned off, and I'm just going to select around my eye and move it down and to the right a little bit. So maybe right there. I think I like that better. So get your eye and nostrils situated, and then we will go to our layer menu, make a duplicate of this layer, click the arrow tool, click flip horizontal, and then move it on over. Try to keep it in line pretty much with your other one, and then set it about right there where our nostrils are kind of the same distance from the edge and our eye is lined up nicely. And we can now snap these two layers together now that we have them placed. So now all we have to do is add our front grass and our butterflies, and then we will be done. So that was the main part of it, obviously, and our pig turned out really cute. So let's just move on. So we are going to first of all go back to our original grass layer that we drew. So it should be just two up from our background. And we are going to grab the fourth color on the top row, and we're going to switch back to our charcoal brush one more time. So let's have that set to maybe 30%. And I am just going to use this darker green and kind of lightly darken up the grass right around our pig where he's laying. Just to give some variation there. So now let's add a new layer on top of all of our layers to do the front part of the grass. So let's go back to our third color on the top row. And essentially, we are just going to use our snow gum brush again. So that was under the organic category, the snow gum brush. And before, we made like the first rectangle, then we just added floof to the top of it. But this time it's just going to be all floof. So maybe set it to like 30%. And we are just going to kind of all in the front here on the sides, and then kind of going up onto the pig here and there in front of him. Like this. Not covering up everything, like we don't, we want some of our shadow to still show from before, but we do want to kind of fill in and make it look like he's really laying in the grass. So something about like that. And then we're going to add some little flower-like sections. So let's go ahead and add a new layer. Grab the second color on the top row. And this time we are going to switch again to our water category here, right under organic and mad splashes. This is the brush that we're going to use to kind of mimic some little like flowers. So let's set that to maybe 8 to 10%. And I am just going to kind of tap my brush. So I'm not like drawing. I'm just going to kind of tap it around in little sections to kind of fill in and add some little sections of flowers. Some in the front and some also in the back as well. Kind of like that, and then we can, after we have quite a few like chunks, we can kind of just add some random like singular ones around to help fill it out. And then I am going to switch to the 5th color on the top row, this light yellow, and add just a few of those around as well to give some variation, not a lot. And then do the same thing with the 6th color on the top row, the light pink. Add just a few of those around as well. So that kind of gives the illusion that we have little daisies kind of around our little pig as well. And finally, we need to add the butterfly. So I'm going to draw one butterfly and then we'll duplicate it. We are going to use the symmetry tool for this. So let's add a new layer on our layer menu at the very top. And we are going to click on the gear icon. Click to turn on the drawing guide. Click edit drawing guide. And select the symmetry option on the far right. It should give you a vertical line. If not, you might need to select vertical under this options category. And then click done. Now on our layer menu, make sure that this layer that we're on now says assisted. It should. And I am just going to start in the sky up here in this area. We will grab the 2nd color on the last row and we will use our dry ink brush again under the inking category. We are going to set this to 15 to 20%. And essentially with this lighter color, I'm going to draw the wings first and then the body in the middle over it. So the wings, I will start just a little bit right from the very center line here, just a little bit to the right. And I'm going to draw the top wing shape. So kind of looks like an ear shape. Kind of just make this like vertical center line here where the body will end up going. And then fill all this in. That's our top wing. And then our bottom wing here, we will start maybe right about here and draw a smaller little bottom wing and fill that in as well. So this will be the wings for our butterfly. Next, we will draw the body. So let's grab our darker color, the first one on the last row. Same brush, same size. And we are just going to first draw the head here, which is going to kind of be like a circular shape. So just kind of draw a circular shape there. And then we are going to draw the body. It's just going to kind of come and fill this space in between our wings. I have mine kind of at a curve here, and then it curves down into just a little point at the end. So about like that. Kind of smooth it out as you need to. Now the same color, same layer and everything, let's drop the size maybe to 10%. So now at first I'm just going to kind of outline the wings in the same darker color here. Same thing on the top. Till they meet in the middle where the wings meet here. And then I'm just going to kind of draw them to the middle like this to kind of create that line there. And next we'll make the pattern on the wings after you've got this where you like it. So I'm going to start on the bottom wing first to do the pattern. I'm just going to start right here where it meets the body on this top line. And I'm going to draw a teardrop kind of shape. Draw another one next to it. And then now I'm just going to start in these new crevices that I've formed and draw more teardrop shapes. Maybe another one over here. Maybe another one here. And then when I can't draw anymore because I'm too close to the edge, I'll just kind of draw a line kind of mimicking where the teardrop shape would be all the way around till it's nice and filled out. About like that. And then we'll do the same thing on the top. So starting where this meets at the bottom, I'm going to draw a bigger teardrop shape since we have more room. Another one next to it on this side, and then maybe another skinny one here. And then again, starting in these new crevices, continue to draw more. Something about like that, again, until they're all just kind of filled out nicely. So this is my butterfly. I will just make copies of it to use for the other ones, and it is a little bit big. So first of all, I'm just going to turn off symmetry. So I'm going to go to the gear icon and turn off the drawing guide. And then this layer that we have here, I'm just going to click the arrow tool, set it to uniform, and downsize it just a little bit, maybe rotate it a little bit too, and it'll just be in the sky there. And then I'll make a duplicate of it and move it over here, maybe make it even a little bit smaller at a different angle. Make a duplicate of the smaller one, maybe move it over here, again at a different angle. And then lastly, I'm going to make a duplicate of my original big one here. So this first should be the bottom butterfly, make a duplicate. Click my arrow tool, and I am going to drag it behind my pig's body here, all the way down, maybe even behind the tail too, just to keep all of our pig layers together. And then I am going to click on it, and then I'm going to use this green bar here to rotate it again until it kind of lines up with our pig, and it'll be sitting on its back, maybe over here. So I'm just going to keep rotating it until it lines up nicely, and we can just see a chunk of its body sticking out and none of the other wings. So it kind of looks like it landed and is sitting on our pig's back like that. So with that done, that completes our drawing today. So I hope you had fun. If you did, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more tutorials from me in the future. If you would like to share your drawing on Instagram, I would love to see it, so go ahead and post it and then tag me so that I can check it out. While you're there, go ahead and give me a follow so that you can see what I'm working on next. Thanks for watching!